We are talking about regulating ourselves during stressful situations. And there are really two parts of this process: what we do in the moment and what we do after. And so we want to separate it in those two parts. And we have a couple steps for the first part and a couple steps for the second part. Because before we talk about how to regulate ourselves in stressful situations, let's talk a little bit about why stressful situations come up. Oftentimes, we are navigating a stressful situation that because it's highlighting a trigger that we already have, or highlighting a wound that is present for us. So when we are triggered, especially when our kids trigger us, sometimes we struggle differentiating between what they're doing and what our trigger is. And so we learn to identify, this is your problem. This is my kids misbehaving. This is my kids driving me crazy. When really it's our kids acting or behaving in a way that touches on a trigger that we already have, touches on a wound that we already have. So when we are struggling to regulate, often it is partially due to the situation in front of us and partially to do with past situations that this current situation is reminding us of. So that's a really important thing to remember about about regulation and struggling to regulate, is that there are going to be two different parts of that process. What do we do here to get through this moment? And what do we do after the fact so that we can shift and work on healing the original wound so that we don't get triggered so often? So in a nutshell, that's what we're talking about tonight. I'm going to focus most of tonight on that first portion, and then I'm going to just give a brief overview of the second portion, what we do on our own. And and then I'm going to talk a little bit about what are some exciting news we have. Basically, our group coaching program is open for enrollment right now. It is not always open. Sometimes we are getting people on board and helping them get hit the ground running, and then we sort of take a pause from enrollment. But right now, the group coaching program is open for enrollment, which means if you are one of the people who is ready to dive deep and get your family meaningful help, custom help for your specific situation, message Christina or myself, and we will start talking with you to see if that is a good fit for you at this time and which program of ours might be the best fit for you. So let's get into this. So what's going to happen is we're going to have a trigger in our situation, and then we're going to be flooded. We're going to be flooded with feelings. So oftentimes people are going to be dealing with overwhelm or anger or sadness or fear, anxiety. So you're going to have some sort of impetus, some sort of situation that happens. Then you're going to have a flood of emotions, and then you're going to have behaviors that you use to cope with that flood of emotions. So if you have this trigger that happens, like let's say your child is screaming, or let's say your child bites you, or whatever happens, you have this incident, you're going to be flooded with your emotions, and then you're going to cope with that emotion by doing something. So your flood of emotions might be anger, it might be sadness, it might be shock. You might have a bunch of different emotions happening, but those emotions are going to get really intense. And then in order to escape them, you're going to do these escape type behaviors, or you're going to maybe get really loud. You're going to get really, you're going to try and regain control of the situation. You probably are going to be in one of the trauma responses if you're struggling to regulate. So we have fight, flight, fawn, or freeze. So you might be people pleasing, you might be getting loud and getting angry. You might, freeze and do nothing and try and make yourself small, waiting for the threat to pass, that sort of thing. And you might, like I said, you might be fawning, you might be people pleasing, trying to be super permissive to make everybody happy so the situation is over as quickly as possible. So you want to check in which is the response that is that feels most prevalent for you when you are triggered. And you can do both. You can have all of them. You can have one when you can have one trauma response when you feel sad. You can have another when you feel scared. You can have another when you feel mad. So it's not just one or the other. You can, your body might respond in multiple different ways. The first step is definitely checking in with your body. What are the emotions that I'm having right now? What behaviors am I using to cope? And just noticing what's happening in your body. A lot of people struggle to identify the physical sensations that they are experiencing when they are dysregulated. So the first step for you might be to just check in with your body and notice, what does fear feel like in my body? Do I feel it in my chest? Do I feel it in my neck? Do I feel it in my shoulders? Where do I feel anger in my body? Do I feel it in my hands or in my stomach or in my face? Where do we feel the physical sensations of that emotion? Because you're going to have a physiological response to your emotions. Your emotions are going to be felt, but they're also going to be felt. So we want to learn to identify, what do our feelings feel like in our body? Check in with your body and then identify the stressors. One of the stressors in the situation, so your child bit you or something, or screaming or something, the TV might be on, the laundry might be going, dad might be talking to the other sibling. So you're when you're struggling to regulate, you're going to have a heightened sense of all of the other things going on around you. So you want to identify which are the stressors that we can start to eliminate, and then we work on eliminating the stressor. So if child is screaming, the laundry's going, the TV's on, dad's talking to so-and-so, we want to just scan our body, notice what we're feeling, and then we want to start scanning the environment for the stressors that we can eliminate. So maybe we make a request, hey, dad, can you pause that conversation? So-and-so, can you turn off the TV? Or maybe you start, let's say you're, a single parent, or you're the only one parenting in that situation. Hey, you might walk to go turn off the TV. I'm going to turn off the TV while I'm helping you feel better. So I turn off the TV, I pause the laundry, whatever it is. We start eliminating some of those external stressors so we can reduce the load on our system. Once we do that and we identify and eliminate some of those stressors, we can start requesting for help from others in the situation. This is only going to be applicable if you are somebody who has more than one child. So if you're a single parent with one child and they're the ones losing it, it's going to be hard to request help from them in that moment. But for another child who maybe isn't dysregulated, you might say, hey, can you help get brother an ice pack? Or, hey, can you help get mom an ice pack? We want to start requesting help instead of getting loud or mean or withdrawing and shutting down or people pleasing or whatever it is you do. You want to start figuring out, what would love feel like right now? What would support feel like right now? And begin asking for that in a way that doesn't put the blame on everyone. You want to do that through narrating. So you might say, wow, it's really loud right now. So-and-so is crying. The TV's on. Can somebody get up and turn the TV off, please? You start asking for help. Hey, it would really feel like love if you could hold my hand right now. Pause. I need some body space. My body is needing some space from you right now. Can you sit over on that side of the couch while we're talking? You're only going to be able to ask for help with those things that you've already noticed. That's why the first steps are really important, because if you don't know what's causing you stress, you're not going to be able to eliminate those stressors. If you don't know what love would feel like, what help would feel like in that situation, you're not going to be able to request it. And we can't expect other people to know what our needs are. Certainly over time, we learn how, what support feels like for mom or for dad or for this child or that child. We can start to learn their patterns. But when you're new to this, which you probably are if you're here, the other person maybe can't read or doesn't know what love feels like to you. So they don't know that, hey, this amount of closeness feels good, or this amount of physical touch feels good, or this amount of talking feels good. So we want to get really good at identifying, what would love feel like for me right now in this situation. So things are going crazy. What does my body feel like? What's stressful in the environment that can be eliminated? How can I ask for help? And then Once basically the threat has been eliminated and the situation has calmed down, then you want to go and take space. You want to take space for 3 different reasons. And we're going to do 3 different parts of this process as we are taking space. We're going to work on reprocessing, reparenting, and then repair work. So reprocessing is going to be figuring out why that trigger was so intense, why that trigger was so intense, what was happening for me in that moment, outside of the moment. Reparenting is going to be nurturing that inner child so that you can start working on the wound that was touched on originally. And then the repair work is going to be making amends for whatever happened when you were in a dysregulated state. So we want to learn how to take space in a healthy way. Whoever is the one who needs to take space is the one who needs to come back. So if I'm dysregulated and I need space because I'm about to lose it with my kids, it's my job to communicate why I need to take space and when I'm going to come back. So I might say something like, my body is too upset to talk about this right now. And I know you deserve to be spoken to kindly right now. Right now, I need space. I'll be back when I can talk to you kindly about this. I'll be back after I've had a chance to find my calm. I'll be back after I've had a chance to relax. We're communicating, I'm leaving not because I don't care about you. I'm leaving because I need to take care of myself. And as soon as I am able to take care of myself, I'll be back. So that's really important because oftentimes taking space is another way that we cause damage to people. And yet we deserve our space. So if you need space, absolutely take that. But you need to be able to take space in a way that recognizes the need for the other person to have communication, especially young children. So children, you need to be even more explicit. Mom's really mad right now, and mom needs to find her calm. I'm going to take some breaths in my room. I'll be back as soon as I finish with my breaths, right? You want to make sure that you're communicating, I'm leaving for this specific reason, and I'm coming back. I'm coming back, and I know that you need my help. So we want to be super explicit. The younger the child is, the more explicit we need to be about when we're coming back. And we want to avoid things like time frames, like for a younger child anyway, like 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever, because number one, we might need more than that, or we might, calming down doesn't happen on a timer, but also children, their concept of time totally shifts, especially in situations that are full of emotion. So time can sometimes be really funny when you are struggling. So I'm going to go take some breaths. I'll be back. I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'm going to take some breaths. I'll come back as soon as I'm finished with my breathing. Then we come back. It's our job to then come back and reinitiate when we've been the one to take space. Hey, I'm ready to talk about it again. I was too mad to talk about it before, but now I'm ready to fix it. Are you ready to fix it? And we want to get consent for coming back and having that repair work conversation. There is a live on repair work. So if you need that live on repair work, put it in the comments and we'll make sure to get that to you. There's also a live about reparenting. I don't know that we've done a live yet on reprocessing, but that's a really important piece. We've done a live, I think, on taking space as well. So I've just kind of briefly covered this, but let's get back to this regulating, right? Because what's happening is that you are going to be continuing to get flooded with these different triggers. You're going to have a trigger, you're going to have a situation, you're going to get flooded. And most people don't know what to do in that situation. Most people end up lashing out. They end up hurting others because they're struggling to regulate themselves. So when we're struggling to regulate, we want to communicate as kindly and as carefully as possible. It's helpful if we can slow ourselves down and talk about what we're feeling rather than what the other person is doing. Another mistake that people make is attacking character when they are upset. So they're trying to eliminate the stressor or eliminate the threat. And so they see the other person who's triggering them as the threat. And oftentimes it's really easy to easy to make character statements when we're in that place. So it's easy to say, you're so selfish, or you're doing this thing to me, or you need to stop such and such. We want to keep to I statements, what we need, what we're feeling, or what behavior we need them to stop, rather than attacking who they are. So there's a difference between you are and you do. So we're talking about this thing that you're doing, or this thing that's happening, versus this person you are, or this character flaw that you have. So when you're struggling to regulate, it's really important to keep in mind that we're not attacking the other person. We're talking about behavior. And sometimes the best thing to do is take that space so that you can return when you're in a calm place. Ideally, though, we would be able to co-regulate with another person. That's really where we want to be able to get to a place where we can co-regulate with another person, where somebody else who is regulated can help us regulate. We need to be able to do this work on our own as well. We want to be able to self-regulate, but we also want to be able to co-regulate. So in your family, it might be helpful to identify, which members struggle to co-regulate and which members struggle to self-regulate. Because the growth work for the person who is struggling to co-regulate is going to be different than the growth work for somebody who struggles to self-regulate. So if you're fantastic at self-regulating, but you're not very good at allowing other people to help you regulate, growth for you is going to be allowing others to show up for you as you are trying to regulate. If you are consistently only able to regulate with others, growth work for you will be learning how to identify, how do I regulate? What do I need in this situation separate from what somebody else can offer me right now? So that's something to pay attention to as well. As you're checking in with your body, I want you to remember gentleness towards self, because so many times we were rushed through our emotions, or we were taught to stuff them down, taught to ignore them or override them for the sake of somebody else. And so this process of learning to regulate and learning to check in is often a painful one and often a scary one. So we want to be gentle with ourselves with what comes up. If we are flooded with emotions, that deserves compassion, whether it's from ourselves or from another, or from both. Self-compassion is so important on this journey. And that can be really difficult if that wasn't modeled for us. If we had caregivers who were really harsh on us, or if we had caregivers who were harsh on others, that gets deep inside. The voices that other people used with us when we were younger, or used with others around us, becomes our internal dialogue. So if we had somebody saying, like, stop crying, quit being such a baby, or other things that were meant to shut our emotions down, or even if they were trying to be helpful by helping us look on the bright side or things like that, it's going to be really natural for you to repeat some of those things to yourself and repeat some of those patterns to yourself. So one of the things that you want to do is just slow down as you're noticing that you're struggling to regulate. Notice what it feels like as you're being flooded with emotions, and recognize that this is a sad moment. Anger is a sad emotion. Anger is often something that we take on in order to protect ourselves from some of the more vulnerable emotions. So however it is that you're struggling, whatever emotions that you are being flooded with, whether they are fear or anger or sadness or whatever it is, those are sad. It is sad to be struggling, and we deserve compassion from ourselves. So if you are struggling with offering yourself compassion, it means several things, but one of the things that it means is you probably have internal framework work to do about who you are as a person. Because if you struggle to offer yourself compassion, it means that you see yourself in a way that doesn't allow you to offer yourself compassion. And we all deserve compassion when we're struggling, whether or not we are behaving well, whether or not we are making mistakes or making the same mistakes over and over and over. So as you are going through this process, as you are learning to regulate, learning to take space, learning to reparent yourself and do repair work, all of these things we're talking about, these are difficult skills. And if somebody lovingly showed you these skills from the very beginning, they would come easy to you. The reason why you cope in the ways that you cope, the reason why you dysregulate in the ways that you dysregulate and cause people harm in the way that you do, it's because of what was modeled for you and the ways that you learned to help yourself feel better. So when we know better, we can do better. And so that's exactly what this group is about. That is exactly what group coaching is about and my private coaching programs. So if you are needing help with this part of the process, with any of these things, please let us know. I want to help you through the whole thing. There is healing available for you. You do not have to live out the same harmful patterns that you have lived out your entire life. And oftentimes we have this feeling like, this is how I've been, this is who I've been my whole life. And so this must be just the way that I am. And I'm here to tell you that it's just false. It is just the way that your brain made sense of the experiences that you had repeatedly. But your brain has made some really false connections about who you are and what you're capable of. You are capable of healing. You are capable of doing things, of having such incredible relationships. You are capable of such incredible things that you are just not aware of yet because of your internal framework. You're stuck in beliefs about who you are and what you're capable of that get in the way of you regulating, that get in the way of you taking space in a healthy way, that get in the way of you identifying your stressors and requesting help and taking space, reprocessing, reparenting, and doing repair work. But each of these things are skills. And if you are ready to learn these skills and to put them into practice, reach out to me, let me know. It is my joy. It is my honor to teach people these skills because the world becomes a better place and it's a lot more fun and our relationships get a lot better. But also because each one of us deserves such healing. Each one of us, there's an inner child in each one of us that deserves to be rescued. And that person that comes to rescue us is often ourselves. And that is such a beautiful thing. So I want to teach you how to do that. This is what I do day in, day out. It lights me up. I absolutely love doing it. And I can tell you that life on the other side of these skills is so much better. And there's really no endpoint. I'm always learning and growing and deepening my skills. But I can tell you that wherever you're at in your journey, there is better. Better is available for you. And it's a matter of learning about the skills and then practicing them to proficiency. So if you are ready to take your healing journey to the next level, reach out to Christina, reach out to myself, and let us know. And we will figure out with you if now is a good time, which program is a good fit for you. And yeah, so much love to you. Oh, if you are watching this on my YouTube, I've just recently started posting this on YouTube as well. So if you are watching this on YouTube, look down in the link look down in the description for the link to my Facebook group, because I have a group where I go live every week and talk and I help people through all sorts of these things in my Facebook group. So if you're watching this on YouTube, welcome. Hello. If you're watching this in my Facebook group, you already know who I am, and you probably already know Christina as well. If you are interested in any of the topics I talked about, just put the name of that topic in the comments and we will make sure that you get the resources that are that were related. All right, I will see you next week. I go live every single week at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So I will see you next week. Much love to you. And yeah, have a good night.